G'day Bomber fans. 2025 has started off on an interesting note. There was a match sim at the hangar yesterday which has given us quite a bit to talk about today. We got a young fringe player looking to break out. Points for guessing who that is. It's not like it's in the title or anything. We saw one of the all-time preseason hangers from Sam Durham playing in a new role. That was awesome. There's quite a bit to talk about today, so let's waste no time and just get right into it. Okay, well, we're going to summarize what happened yesterday, but we're going to start with Elijah Tsatas. That's the title of the video. That's probably what you guys want to hear about the most, I'm guessing. So obviously I wasn't at training, I'm in Adelaide, but lots of information floating around. I've talked to a few that were there, and if you ask anyone who was in attendance, it's almost unanimously Tsatas who was the MVP. I think it mainly comes down to opportunity, to be honest. For so long I've said that Tsatas has to play inside midfield if he's going to play AFL. He can't play up forward, he can't play on a wing, at least not this early into his career. But the second we see him given proper opportunities inside the contest, he looks the goods. Obviously guys like Parrish and Caldwell didn't participate in the match sim. They're off to the side a bit. Merritt was floating across halfback a lot, which is a role I expect to see more of in 2025. It means we got guys like Martin, Durham, and of course Tsatas, who can play more minutes in 2025 with new roles for our ready-made mids. Tsatas was a clearance machine yesterday. He was getting his hands to the ball first. He was winning out clearances or winning himself free kicks. His ball use has noticeably improved as well, by the way. That's the big one, ball use. Whether or not he can handle the heat and pick off a pass. But I'm starting to get more confident in that ability from him with the more I hear and the more vision I see. Really, to sum it up, he just tore up. He's looking a proper chance to break out this year and make a name for himself as a future mid of the comp for the Bombers. Something we should probably expect from a top 5 pick anyway. And what it does is it creates really interesting team discussions, and also I guess it creates good competitive culture with battles for squad spots. So that's if Tsatas keeps this form up, of course. But if he does, you've got Tsatas and Parrish kind of battling it out for a spot in the same role, same team. Both similar styles of players, and I guess it does give us more midfield depth now too, because well, let's face it, Tsatas hasn't really been a ready-made AFL player in the last 2 seasons we've seen him. But if he can be that player now, it only helps the team and gives us a reason to be excited for 2025. So, yeah, Tsatas was the star. He dominated match sim, and it's nothing new. He's been doing similar things before the Christmas break. He's looking primed for a good season. But also, I do just want to say, because I know there'll be some comments about this, and I am about to talk about this as well, but Tsatas wasn't playing on proper AFL midfielders. He was usually playing on Ben Hobbs or Lamar Lowell or Dylan Shields, some of these guys. So although he was fantastic, we shouldn't get overly hyped. I think it's great and it's awesome to see him play well, but we do need to remember it is training, and it's training against a makeshift midfield. Okay, so that brings us on to some team-wide news. So first up, the Bombers match sim, and every club's match sim usually splits up teams into A and B, or main team and reserves, A being the better team, B being the guys that aren't quite close to the AFL, I guess. This is to build chemistry with the players that will play together most, both in the AFL but also in the VFL. But of course, there are sometimes some pretty good players who end up on the B team, I guess, to make the match sim more competitive, or some roles more competitive, some matchups. And it also changes mid-session sometimes too. So correct me if I'm wrong with any of these, but some interesting little things to note. The A-team ruck was Nick Bryan going up against Todd Goldstein. Sam Draper wasn't there. I'll talk about that later. So that's a good sign. Nick Bryan over Goldstein. The A-team defense obviously featured our better players like Ridley and McGrath and Redman, with Mackay off to the side in training. But on the B team, you have guys like Jaden Laverty and Saad El Hawley, who was on a wing, mostly with Archie Roberts on the opposing side. I found that interesting. Dylan Shield was on the B team. Lewis Hayes was B. Tsatas and Perkins were A. You had some interesting B teamers running through the midfield to combat. As I said, Lowell, Hobbs, Shield were often in it. So that could benefit Tsatas and help him perform better. Roberts was A, as I said. Menzies was A. I'm fairly sure Isaac Kako was the only draftee to be on the A team. Correct me if I'm wrong there. A lot of this is based on vision. And the most interesting one for me, by the way, was Peter Wright being on the opposing B team with guys like Caddy, Jones, Langford on A. Again, not really confirmed that Wright is in reserves contention or anything. It may just be a way for coaches to test out A-team defenders, because for a lot of this preseason you've got Reed playing on Wright, and that's a great size test for Reed and Wright actually, rather than Ridley on Wright, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So Reed was A, Wright was B. That could just be a matchup kind of thing. I've probably missed out some others because I've yapped on a bit, but for me the main one is Wright and Goldstein on B team. I find those the most interesting moves, and Shield. Comment some others you may have seen down below. And positionally, Merritt is floating along halfback quite a lot. That is definitely going to be a feature in his game soon. Whether it's regular in 2025 or something we see glimpses of, we're going to see it. I can see Merritt playing a Zorko type role as he winds down, not in 2025. I think he's going to play a lot of midfield still, but we're going to see glimpses of him in defence. He's just a great ball user to have back there, which can free some others up to be in the guts more, like Martin. He's definitely going to be a feature in the midfield. Durham will be in the guts, but we're also seeing him do quite a lot up forward. He was a really prominent marking target actually in the forward half, not just his specky, but just his play in general. He was almost playing Perkins' role, it seems. They were both on the same team. I reckon Shield will also feature in the halfback if he plays. He was on the B team opposed to Merritt, but yeah, most of the changes around the ground are ones we've kind of seen floated a bit already. So I'm going to let you know in future videos if something funky pops up. But as it is right now, I can't really imagine too many major positional changes occurring for 2025. I reckon after a few more sessions and some more match sim, I'll compile all of the ones we've seen into a video to kind of give us a glimpse into the changes we'll see in 2025, but also the little aces up Scott's sleeve for the season, because now we've got players training in that position, they're more familiar with it, and it could be a little ace up the sleeve. Alright, so aside from Tsatas, who performed well, Sam Durham was very prominent, Harry Jones took some nice clunks roaming between a wing and the forward line, Zach Reed looks like he's moving really well, fingers crossed, touch wood, touch all the wood you can. Roberts had some nice moments on the wing, Wright took a really nice mark. I mean, the main story really is Tsatas. This is a pretty minor match sim. It's still so early with players being left out for cautionary reasons, so it's not full squad. I'll talk about who was and wasn't present shortly, but yeah, it seems like, again, the players we want to be performing are performing well. I'd much rather see headlines about Tsatas tearing up than Zach Merritt. That would be worrying. As for the draftees, it seems like they're all pretty quiet, although Reece Unwin has been getting some quiet claps here and there. Obviously, Kako was on the A team, but didn't really set the world alight. That's okay. He's still just a kid. Don't expect too much out of him straight away, but for Unwin to be looking lively, that is really good. We obviously really wanted him in the draft. We need our small forward stocks to improve, and speaking of that, we do have an NGA player training with us. I've spoken about him once or twice on the channel before, Hussein El Achkar. I probably butchered that name, I apologise. But he is a small forward out of Calder Cannons. He's played with Isaac Kako and Jaden Nguyen. He's not at the draft level of Kako, not that high up, but he's definitely someone we can keep an eye on this year, and I'll talk about him more as the year unfolds. Injury news, nothing really new, I don't think. You got guys like Mackay and Cox taking it pretty easy still. Parrish was off to the side. A lot of guys are off to the side, kind of doing their own thing. They might not necessarily be injured. They may just be taking it easy and playing it, I guess, a precautionary role as we're still so early into the year. Zach Johnson's still recovering from that shoulder. Kane Baldwin didn't feature on our first session back, but he did play out in the match sim on the B team. Caldwell is doing quite a lot of work now on that hip, and he could return sooner than initially expected. It was supposed to be early February, but he's amped up his running since last year. Matt Guelphy started running on that hamstring. Nothing too crazy, mostly just laps, but at least he is moving and getting some fitness in for when he returns. Sam Draper wasn't at training at all, but that is listed as personal reasons. No injury or anything, I believe, just personal reasons. So we all hope all is well there. The club hasn't said anything, and there isn't really any news, so there's no need to go snooping or anything if you guys want answers. We're probably going to see him back next week, I reckon. This sort of thing happens a lot. Yes, these guys are athletes, but they're also people with family and friends, so nothing to fret over as a fan. But yeah, injury list is looking decent right now, touch wood. Hopefully it stays that way, because we've got a lot of work to do before opening round. Alright, that is that. A cheeky little training recap. There's going to be more of these, and if there aren't, I really do recommend giving guys like Scooter McNeese, Charlie Dons, and EFC Track Watcher a follow. While you're at it, go check out Rick Edwards and James Lowry too. This lot is all over it this time of the year on Blue Sky and Twitter. That's all though. Cheers for watching. Like, subscribe, and go Bombers.